Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a review to do for you. I guess it's kind of a long-term review, although I haven't had this knife for years. I've had it certainly over a year, and I've used it enough to know what it's made of. I'm going to be doing a little bit of kind of a demonstration with this knife today as well, so you can see me use it here. This is where I tested my Spyderco Tough. Welcome back to the Bearded Gear testing grounds. Anyways, I just did a video yesterday. It may not be yesterday from when this gets posted, but anyways, yesterday in real time, I rewrapped this handle because I had done just a janky beginner job. Still very much a janky beginner job on here, but I rewrapped this better than it was. So if you missed that video, I'll link it down below so you can see the way that I rewrapped this. It's definitely not perfect, far from it, but functionally it works really well for me. I like this knife a lot better in hand now that I have rewrapped it. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of just kind of demonstration of its abilities today. But before I jump into that, let's talk a little bit about this knife. This is the Cold Steel Drop Forged Hunter, as you can see right there. And this is 52-100 blade steel, which is a blade steel I really like. It's a high carbon steel, as you can see. This comes from Cold Steel's Taiwan factory, if that means anything to you. So this is part of their drop forged line, which means the way this knife comes, it's not cord wrapped. It's just one solid piece of 52-100 that's been coated. And because they make it in the way that they do, these are super, super inexpensive. When I checked yesterday, these were 35 bucks on Amazon. I think that's about what I paid when I got this one. So for 52-100 blade steel that appears to be heat treated well, and I believe it ought to be because Cold Steel tends to nail heat treats in my experience, this is just a lot of knife for the money, and that's why I got it. Just to be like a user field knife that's so inexpensive that I don't care what happens to it, but is still really capable. So let me jump in front of the camera for a second. I'll talk about it a little more, and we'll do a little bit of cutting, maybe batoning, we'll see, and show you what it's made of a little bit. So I'm gonna run over there 1 second. All right, so I want to see or show you, I've already frankly used this knife a fair bit, as you can probably see from the damage I've done to the finish on it, but I'm going to show you a little bit what this knife is capable of. I've never sharpened this knife, and I've used it a fair bit, like I said. I did strop it this morning just to be sure I was coming at it with a pretty fresh edge to show you guys what it's made of. But it being this solid chunk of steel, it just feels substantial in the hand. It is heavy. It's definitely not a lightweight pack knife, but it's really just kind of built tank-like. I love the profile on it, by the way. I probably should have showed you this while I was right up there by the camera, but the way that the edge comes right down here to the lowest point, this knife would also, if you're using this in like a camping application, it would be a really good kind of food prep knife with the profile of it, in my opinion. The way this knife is shaped, it's just a good all-around user. It's a very usable blade shape. It's very simple, and I think the simplicity is definitely what keeps the price low, but also makes it very functional. So it's got a really, really good cold steel edge on it. The way that they sent this knife, it's just like, it's really sharp out of the box. It's a full flat grind. It's pretty thin behind the edge, actually, thinner than I would think, just based on seeing like photos of this knife. I thought it was going to be ground much more poorly than it is. It's ground really well. It's a nice tall full flat grind, and we've got a lot of blade here. So I found that for feather sticking even, and for batoning, for chopping through stuff, this knife performs really, really well. So let me just show you a little bit here. This is hard, dead wood, and it bites right in, takes nice notches out. And it's the way that this handle is shaped, I've got a great spot to choke back. I really just put kind of 2, maybe 3 fingers on here at most, and let the other 1 or 2 hang off. And then I use that swell to keep my hand in place, and it gives me a great index to go ahead and chop with it. This edge looks pristine after that. Let me try a little bit. This is longer than I need it to be. We can fix that. There was an ant on there too. I think he's gone now. Anyways, I can pound this sucker way in there, and it's just, it is a solid chunk of tough steel. So it's as simple, really, as you can make a knife, and that's really its shining feature. It's impressive to me that, oh, hold on, I'm gonna come back over there. All right, so as I was saying before my knees told me I had to get up, this knife is really impressive to me, and for a couple of reasons. So the first reason is the price. This sucker being 35 bucks in a blade steel that frankly I really like. 52100 is a really good user, tough outdoor steel, and I've had nothing but good experiences with it on several different knives. To come in at like $35 on Amazon Prime, just really great. Secondly, the way that this knife is actually ground and shaped to really use, I thought this thing was going to be, I mean, I didn't expect it to actually have good edge geometry and to be shaped in a profile that's as usable as it is. I thought for the price, you're basically buying an unfinished piece of 52100 steel. It's almost like a knife blank by the looks of it. But once you get it in hand and really feel the way that this thing works and the way that you can use it, it's a phenomenal knife. I love that there's no jimping, there's nothing crazy happening here. With a simple cord wrap that I did by myself at home with some paracord and a lighter, this knife feels really good and obviously very solid in hand based on its construction. It's, like I said, it's not lightweight, it's a little bit heavy, but it's so usable when you really get it in hand and start cutting with it, chopping with it, batoning with it, feather sticking with it. Everything that I've done with it, it just eats it up, and it's a total beast, and the steel is gonna go for miles and miles. One thing I love about 52100 is how effective I have found stropping is for it. Sorry, these flies are really killing me. Stropping on 52100 is so effective in my experience. It's really good at keeping the edge going. So when I'm out in the woods and I'm using my knife extensively, or maybe I'm on a several day long camping trip or something like that, and I need to keep my knife sharp in the field, I can literally use my leather belt off of my waist and I can strop this thing back to sharp, and I've done that. It's excellent. I really like it. The way that this whole thing comes together, I feel like if this knife cost twice as much as it does, it would be worth it. I don't think with the way that it looks, many people would jump on it, because it's just not like, I don't know, when I look at this knife, I'm not like, wow, that's a knife I need to have. The appearance of it and the finishing on it and all that just seems like it was kind of like made to, I don't know, just be as cheap as possible. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised the moment that I first opened this up, how it actually felt in hand, how good the edge profile was, what a fantastic edge came on it, and how, yeah, it feels really well thought out now that I actually have one and have used it and own it. So kudos to Cold Steel for making this so inexpensive. I feel like this is just a great option for people who are on a budget and need a good outdoor knife. Speaking of which, I have a buddy who, up to a few months ago before the Rona hit, I was hiking with frequently, like on average at least once a week. And from the time we started hiking, he was always jealous that I had a knife on my pack. It was the SE Azula at the time, and he always just thought it was great to have a knife like that on my pack where I could grab it and use it, and it was functional and a great way to carry it while outdoors like this. And he owned a pocket knife, but he's not a knife guy like I am. And so I knew he really wanted a fixed blade, and I decided to get one for him that he could carry while we were out hiking together. And I got him one of these because for the money, I think this is the most fixed blade you can buy. If there's something out there that is as durable and tough and as good of a steel that's as functional as this is for $35, please let me know what it is, because I'll buy one and test it. I would love to. I mean, you can get like a cheap Mora or something, but the difference between 52-100 and the steels that Moras come in, and the construction of this, how solid and substantial it is. I mean, obviously it's a very different knife. This is much less like lightweight bushcrafty type of thing, but it's just, it really comes together in a really fun, really cool way. This is a knife I can come out and just have fun with and beat on and go crazy, and I have no worries about ruining it, because A, it's built so substantial and it's just taking everything like it's nothing, and B, it costs so little that if I needed to buy a brand new one, like, it would almost be worth it if I got this thing super dull to, instead of spending the time sharpening one, just buy another one. That's how inexpensive these are. For 35 bucks, I mean, it's a really, really good deal. So I guess that's probably a bad example. I would resharpen this before I'd buy a new one. I'm not that lazy. But if you were that lazy or didn't know how to sharpen and didn't have the equipment, etc., that's an option for you, I guess. So yeah, I really think this is a cool knife. It comes with a great functional sheath. This is one of Cold Steel's just plasticky. This is not Kydex, it's plastic, but it's like a formed, I don't know if you would call it a poly, whatever it is, and it's got great retention. I was able to wrap the handle, and even with the handle wrap still without snapping it, my retention is fantastic. Just give it a little thumb pop. There we go, and she is out and ready to go. It also, of course, has this snap as well, so the retention on it is going to be fantastic. My buddy was wearing his on his pack vertically, like how I have my BGM pike now, and it worked for him great in that way. You can, of course, run a belt through here, so you could carry this in a variety of ways. It's a super versatile sheath, especially because we've got all of these attachment points, so there's all kinds of ways that you could use this to your heart's desire or content. I don't know what the expression I'm looking for is, but you get the picture. This is the Cold Steel drop forged Hunter in 52-100 steel, and it is a tank. It's a beast, and it's super cheap, and I recommend, if you need a good beater user, inexpensive fixed blade, get one of these and wrap the handle with some paracord yourself. And the cost of this paracord is what, less than $1. So for 36 bucks and a little bit of time, you've got a great outdoor user fixed blade in 52-100 steel, which is just really, really great. So there you have it. I really like this knife, if you can't tell, and I just recommended it, so you probably can tell, but it's the Cold Steel drop forged Hunter, and it is a beast.